He was the head of security for 13 years for the Jerry Springer Show, but Steve Wilkos is now the star of his own show and has been for 5 years. How are you?
Good, very good, thank you.
The Steve Wilkos Show. Lots of people remember you as the guy who was the level-headed head of security before. It's been a long road.
Yeah, well, a lot of people still remember me from the Jerry Springer Show, even though I've had my show for 5 years. A lot of times I go out in public, and even though it's calmed down a little bit, but for a long time it was Jerry when they saw me. and you know, listen, I had a great time on the Springer Show, and obviously it was a tremendous opportunity to get to the point where I'm at now.
Yeah.
So I look back on I had a great time on the Springer Show.
You were a Marine.
I was in the Marines. I joined right after high school, and I served on active duty from 1982 to 1989. And my dad was in the military, and I always said, I'm not going to be like my dad growing up, and I turned out to be just like my dad. So I went, you know, after the military, I became a Chicago cop just like my father, and that was a lot of fun. I always looked up to my father. You know, he was this big cop when I was growing up, and he was kind of larger than life. And
in Chicago.
In Chicago, right.
That's
so I followed right in his footsteps and became a Chicago policeman, and I had a great time. I was a young guy right out of the military, and it was a great job. You had a gun and a badge and go out there and get the bad guys.
What was the feeling in the ranks of the Chicago Police Department when you were becoming this star?
You know what, overall I was very supportive. I think a lot of guys, a lot of my partners, they got a kick out of it. Because at first you were just, oh my God, you're on TV, oh, it's kind of cool. And I think in the beginning, nobody could ever foresaw what it was going to turn out
How
to
did
be.
the criminals see it?
That made my job super easy. If you can't believe how easy being on the Springer Show. I would pull over a group of guys, gangbangers, and I'd have my gun shoved in their ribs, and they're like, hey, Steve, you know, and they were just so happy to meet me. And I'm like, oh my God, you got a 357 in your ribs.
You were determined when you got your show to make sure that this show succeeded in an environment where probably more than 90% fail.
And I was exposed to this for a long time when I started working on Springer in '94, and we always talked about all the shows that came and went in a very short period of time. And it was scary to leave the Springer Show knowing that here's a show that I always question why people leave shows when they're very popular. Farrah Fawcett, you know, with Charlie's Angels and Suzanne Summers. You know, you're on a pretty easy gravy train. Why jump off? And Springer Show was the gravy train. It was speeding along.
Why did
Well,
you?
because they came to me and said, we're giving you your own show. But I was kind of torn.
Was it the money? I mean, you must have gotten
You know what? My first year, I didn't make a whole lot more than what I was making on Springer.
Okay.
I mean, I got a bump, but I had no pressure on me when I was on Springer. To me, I was second banana, I was having fun. Well, then when I got my own show, all the pressure's on you.
What kinds of pressures
Well,
do you
because
feel?
it's your name, you have to succeed. And as you just said, so many shows fail.
You have the critics that say, this isn't a TV guy. He didn't do 10 years
the first
of
year,
anchoring.
Exactly. They're like, oh, Jerry Springer's bodyguard's getting a TV. And I'll never forget, we were in LA, and there was it was all the new shows, and all the critics and writers were out there. And people were basically snickering in the audience when, you know, they were interviewing me like, you're never gonna last. You won't, I mean, one guy told me, you're not gonna last 13 weeks. And that was just, everybody's always told me that my whole life. And not because of me, but like the guys in the neighborhood when I was growing up, they said, some guys didn't make it through Marine Corps boot camp. They went into the Marines, they got kicked out, they didn't make it. They're, oh, you're not gonna make it, you're not gonna make it. I go, I'm making it. And then when I got out, people were like, oh, you won't be able to get on the police department, you won't get on. I go, somebody's getting on, it's gonna be me, and I got on. And so like, people just, you know, they're always, oh, you're not gonna do this, you're not. And when I got my show, I just said, I'm gonna, and not that I could make it work, but I said, I'm gonna do everything I can to make sure that if I don't make it, that I didn't leave anything,
What did you
behind.
do extra to make sure that other people don't do?
Well, I think when I got done taping, the show was never over for me. Like, we went out on the streets and we did tapings till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning.
All right, so this is where it goes down, huh?
This is, you come back here and these are all the 3 sets of Maury, Jerry, and myself. And a lot of times, most people, they just see what's happening on stage, but A lot of times the guests are back here, and we have security back here because if
Right.
you didn't, there'd be some action going on.
It's funny because we were watching the Jerry show and we saw people coming back off stage after the segment, and they were still they were still fighting.
Yeah, I mean, back in the day when we did the Springer show, backstage, I mean, we were patching people up, you know, like sending them back out like boxers.
Is there an art to restraining two people off of each other?
You know, there's not an art. Obviously, it helps because of my size. I'm a fairly strong guy, so I can control people. But it's really, the thing is to catch it quick enough. When you see somebody in their eyes that they're going to do something, you react and you get in there and you get that. The whole thing, everything, fighting, everything, you got to get that first step, that
That's a
first
beat
punch.
cop for you, right? That's what it is.
That's right.
And as you become more and more of a brand and you move forward, what do you say the future looks like for you?
You know, it's amazing. My whole life I've been preparing to someday to stop working. My mother drilled into my head at a very early age to save, save, save. And I've been very fortunate to always prepare for myself and prepare for my family. And my future is, I really love doing my show, but when this is over, I really just want to be with my kids. I want to drive them to school, pick them up from school. I'm very involved with my children as far as their activities go. So I really don't look at it as anything else as what I want to do. It's like, I kind of feel like I've reached the pinnacle of my career doing this show, and when
Right.
someday when it's over, there's not a whole lot I want to do.
But
Even to get to the point where I got 5 years in TV, to me is a tremendous accomplishment. That this show, you know, you get a lot of people there. Look at the people that are getting shows that are coming out this year: Steve Probst, Steve Harvey, you know, big name people,
Right,
Katie
yeah.
Couric, you know, Steve Wilkos. You know, if I was not
you really
Springer,
didn't
right,
have that brand.
Right. So there's very talented, very popular people that get shows, and they don't make it, and they get canceled. And for the bodyguard of Jerry Springer to last as long as I have, I'm certainly happy with what we achieved.
Thank you, Steve,
Thank you very much.
for bringing us out here.
Yeah.
And your head didn't shine too bad. I know I'm probably lighting it up, but
I only shave it on days after tape, so.
thanks a lot. And with Steve Wilkos, I'm Lee Hawkins. We'll see you next time.